Welcome to the Hot Girl School, the podcast where we redefine confidence and go way beyond the reflection you see in the mirror.
We're your hosts, Lauren and Danielle, here to empower you to embrace your inner radiance because confidence is so much more than looks.
Whether you're strutting into an event or conquering the boardroom, join us as we explore topics like self-love, inner strength, and owning your unique journey to confidence.
So grab your favorite drinkie and turn up that volume because you're about to unleash your true potential.
Hey hotties, welcome back to the Hot Girl School, where we're all about stepping into your best self with wisdom, confidence, and a dash of real talk. Today's topic might hit close to home for some of us. It is, oversharing. While it can feel liberating to be open, oversharing can actually be a subtle form of self-sabotage that leaves us feeling vulnerable, second-guessing ourselves and our boundaries, and even compromising our self-respect. Statistics actually show that 56% of social media users regret sharing certain personal details online.
Woo!
Have you ever shared something online that you're like, "Oh, take that down. Why did I do that?"
Oh yeah, I'm sure I have. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Usually it's a relationship once we're broken up.
Have you ever done that thing like where the Facebook memories pop up and you're like, "Cringe. Why did I share that in 2008?"
Totally. Sometimes it's an outfit, a haircut, whatever it is.
So funny.
Oh my God. Are you an oversharer? We know you're an overpacker. Are you an oversharer?
I don't think I'm an oversharer.
Did you ever used to be?
I think so. Yeah, I think professionally I could because in a way where like, okay, so let's kind of break down. So part of what we want to do today is with oversharing is kind of like, where does it come from? Is it a trauma response? Is it self-sabotage? Like what is it around? Is it self-validation? And for me, it was like validation, right? So professionally, I would overshare my knowledge sometimes. So it would be like, oh, I need to be, you know, hello. We just technical difficulties.
back.
If you're not watching, we just turned on our light. Anyway, yeah. So definitely have been an oversharer professionally, just in a more of a like oversharing out of like a nervousness because I was always the youngest. I was often only the female at the table. Like I was always with a male dominated industry. And so I felt like I needed to say more in order to be heard. And that was part like being young, part learning, but it was, hey, it was validating that like I am supposed to be here.
And everything you were saying was accurate, true, or were you sharing personal stuff
No, I think it was just like almost like over talking maybe.
to fill the silence?
No, to show that I have the knowledge.
Okay.
Right? So it was like I didn't need to say as much to prove it was like proving that I was meant to have a seat at that table and everything I was saying was real. It wasn't like I was oversharing personal details or things like that, but I was oversharing the knowledge that I have about the particular subject matter
Trying to prove.
out of like nerves, out of wanting validation that like, yeah, you might be the youngest one here. Yes, you might be the only female. That was my way of feeling like, see, I'm supposed to be here.
Yeah, like I got a big dick.
Kind of. Yeah.
Yeah.
BD, what do you call it? You were like, you have big dick
BDE?
energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, BDE.
Mm-hmm.
What about you? You an overshare?
I used to
Were
be.
Were you?
I used to be. I am not anymore. I now created my top 3 that I have three friends that I will share really truly anything and everything with because I know that they won't judge me, and I know that if I fuck up, if I don't take their advice, they're not going to hold it against me and they're still going to love me even if I go against all of my better judgment and it doesn't work out. They're not going to be there to say, "See, I told you so." They're still going to support me and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because usually when you overshare, people tend to use that against you down the road and you're thinking,
yeah,
I was just trying to like
connect
be my
with
authentic
you.
self with you and let you in on my life and now you're using it against me?
Yeah.
That's the problem with oversharing.
Yeah. Well, okay. So oversharing can come from like the need for self-validation, right? It can be a form of self-sabotage. Like you're almost doing like what you just described because you know the person's going to use it against you or you know deep down what you're doing you shouldn't be doing.
Correct.
So you're hoping they're going to call you on it, right? But the problem with it is the self-sabotage, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you see those, like everyone's read those cringy, like let's use social media, for example. You've read those cringy, like, why the fuck are you sharing this online?
Or like I can think of one girl who for a while she was frequently posting a new boyfriend and of course everyone was gushy. I love you so much. Da, da, da,
Oh,
da.
yeah.
But it was like deleted the next guy, deleted the next guy. And you kind of get
Love bombing.
addicted from the outside. I'm like, wait, what happened to that one? I want to know the inside scoop.
It's like reality TV,
Right.
the
And
love
so
bomb.
that is part of oversharing. Like when you've been
Totally.
in a relationship for a month, you do not need to go and post how much you love this person. Let the relationship play out. It doesn't need
Yeah.
to be posted right away. And people do that all the time because they're excited.
So what do you think we do then if you're an oversharer or you think you might be an oversharer, what do we do about it?
Oh man. I think I've shared in other episodes. I started doing the voice notes. You
Mhm.
can journal. Uh, I have and created my top three.
Yeah.
Um, and learning how to validate yourself, which this is the self love. This is the part where it takes work, where it's not fun, where it's hard. People get tired of listening to you, right?
Yeah.
When you are with yourself, eventually you're going to get tired of your own shit and make a decision on what you're going to do. And part of that is not oversharing.
Yeah.
What
Well,
do you
and
think?
it's like the friend that we've all had a friend that's gone through like a tough relationship, right?
Mhm.
And they're saying the same stuff. You're there for them. You're a shoulder to cry on, and it's the same thing. And you're giving them the advice, and they're not taking it,
Mm,
right? And then you start to be like, okay, you're not listening, so clearly you don't want a different outcome, and you stop. So what you're suggesting is like you're doing that with yourself. You'll start to see the pattern if
mhm.
you're journaling it and you start to see like, okay, I'm complaining about the same thing or I'm oversharing about the same thing with myself, like I got to do something about it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, working on it.
Yeah, so for overshares, the big place that we all can relate and see it on is definitely social media, right? So I think that we can give a few takeaways for specifically that'll help you to kind of check yourself and then you can apply them into other parts of your life. So step 1, like pause, like use the pause before you post.
Mhm.
And is this something that I want the general public to know? Is this something they need to know? Like, is this appropriate? Right? The fight that you just had with your fiance or your boyfriend, nobody needs to know the details of that online,
Right.
right? And then, one area where this kind of goes to the point you made earlier, where people use things you share against you when you're just genuinely trying to connect and be real, is family, like family and friends, right? So you could set, in order to help yourself with that, you could set some sharing boundaries. So, like, for example, we started a podcast, right? Some people were supportive, some people weren't supportive.
Correct.
So we can just use that as an example of like, you could just say, hey, we started a podcast, but you don't have to like get into the details. You don't have to share every little thing about it. And sometimes if you know specifically that you're not going to get the support, that's a time when you should definitely have some boundaries around sharing what you're up to.
But part of that is being confident in knowing I made this decision and I
Yep.
want to stick with it. So I don't really care. Like sticking with the podcast. People did not like the name of the podcast. They thought it was controversial. We like it. We want it to be controversial because people are going to be talking about it. We were so confident in the name that other people's opinions did not waver us.
Yeah,
And that's
totally.
how you have to be in every single department when you overshare. You have to be so confident that no matter what someone says, you're not going to be shook.
So statistically, one of the main reasons that people overshare is for validation, right?
Yeah.
So if that's something that you're doing, you're looking for validation from outsiders, from third parties, and that validation, even if they give you the answer that you want or the feedback that you want, it's never going to feel as good as you owning it and validating yourself. So, working on and setting opportunities for yourself where you can self validate and you can build that muscle of feeling confident in your decisions, in your opinions, in the choices that you're making, that is going to help you stop oversharing, especially if you're an oversharer for validation.
Do you have any examples of how to do
Oh,
this?
you just gave one. So, perfect example is if you're starting a new business, you have a business name,
Oh,
like,
you're saying just be confident in the
yeah,
decision you make.
like, know that, like, you don't need validation from everybody, and knowing that not everybody's always gonna agree with you. Like, for example, I just trademarked, my business methods. I call them the Harmony Hustler methods,
Mhm.
and I've gotten people that are like, "Oh my gosh, I love that," and I've had people, "I hate that name." And I don't care because it resonates with me. I am happy with it. It feels good to me. I have a whole story around it, and I don't need that validation. But it's also like, I'm not going to keep sharing with the person that's like, I hate it. It's like, okay, you're not deserving of to hear even why. What's the message behind it? Like, and going further into it.
And when you're on the receiving end, it doesn't hurt to ask, are you looking for advice on the name or are you just telling me the name?
Yeah,
Right? I'm sure you didn't go to these people asking if you like the name. They just gave an unsolicited opinion on the name and you're like, "Well, that wasn't exactly why I was sharing it, but thank you."
totally.
You know? So sometimes being aware and cognizant of how you treat others when they are trying to just be validated, depending on what it is, just give them a little high five,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, but I think, it's starting to, you'll know if you're seeking validation, if you're sharing for validation. If you start to become intentional about saying, like, hey, am I an overshare? Is this a trauma response? Am I self sabotaging? Am I seeking validation? Like, those are the top three reasons why people overshare. Then you're going to start to notice as soon as you put the awareness to it and your attention there,
Mhm.
you'll know if that's what you're doing.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's what our friends are for. We get caught in the small-minded gossip, whether it's about ourselves, our spouse, our friends, whoever, and when you get stuck in that loop, it's really hard to get out of it, but
Totally.
everybody's sharing, and then once one person overshares, somebody else will mirror that, and now you have 2 or more people oversharing, and that's when it can get nasty in a
Yeah.
group.
Yeah. Well, and it's, and I always go back to social media because we are in this space where it's like you want to show up and be real and authentic, but there's also a lot of things that aren't for online.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's better to get to know people offline
Yeah.
than to try and put everything out there online.
Yeah. Do
And it's a
you
preference thing. I think like that's like, and I'm speaking probably from my lens there, like that's my personal preference is the people that I actually like can physically touch and see face to face and have coffee with, those are the people that really know me. The
Mhm.
people that just see me online, you don't really know the people that you just know online. You
Right.
don't actually know them.
That they are getting the highlight reel of
Yeah.
what it is that you choose to put out there, and anything else they don't know the cracks in between.
Well, and there's power in struggle, right? Like so it's good to share struggles like there you never know who you can help, but when it comes to like stuff about my kids or stuff about my marriage or like that's just not for social media.
No, although a lot of people could relate. But if you're going out, like there's two things, right? So, like my whole anorexia thing, I've had friends be like, you should share that. That is
Yeah.
powerful. It was a long time, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I just don't want to. I'm at peace with it. What's it
Yeah.
gonna gain me? Right? All it
Well,
is gonna have people be like, oh, and I'm probably just gonna get a whole bunch of hate when it's kind of like that's in a box, it's been thrown away. I'm not interested in talking about it. I don't care to talk about it. So what's it gonna do?
yeah. Well, I think there's a different like if your passion was I want to share this story so that I can help people that are going through it now, you would have a different outlook on it,
But not
right?
everybody takes it that way. Like
Yeah.
anybody can post anything, and no matter how sentimental or sad the story is, I guess that's the bullies behind the keyboards is that they're assholes. And then they come at you and you're like, I was literally trying to help somebody and you came in and just like ran through it. You
Yeah.
know? Like you can't control
Okay,
everybody.
and that's part of it, right? So you're not seeking validation, which is why you're like, I don't feel the need to share it
Correct.
because I'm at peace with it, like you said, right? But it's and that's the other thing is that if you are going to be vulnerable and go out there and share something because you want to help someone, know that the haters are going to hate.
Oh, yeah. And that's the easiest place. Doing it at one on one at a coffee or with a group
Different,
of friends is very different. It's not being recorded, it's not online. You don't have randoms who are going to interject, but that's for connection. And maybe that is to help somebody. And there are times when oversharing can be positive, but
for
we're
sure.
talking about going out and telling everybody everything, your whole life story, just to like have a pity party every day with whoever. That doesn't work.
Well, and also too, like if you're think about it when you're meeting new people, like you and I have both lived in multiple states, like you're always kind of freaked out by the person that you meet and you know their entire life story in 2.5 seconds. It feels a little weird because you're like, whoa, that was a lot. Like authentic, real connection takes a little bit of time to develop, and you go there. And so don't like data dump your whole life, especially if you're trying to like make new connections. That can feel overwhelming.
Yeah, there's a small part that makes me think, wow, like you're very open. Like I'm a little jealous of that because I'm so protected about my
Yeah.
personal life. And so, but it does take a certain type of personality, a day and a time. I have to be in the mood to want to share those things. And I think that once you can sense where you're at with other people, especially new people,
Yeah.
that's going to help you understand, all right, is this person safe to share with? And maybe share one thing and see how that goes and
Yeah.
see if they do use it against you if you ever get in a fight or whatever down the road. But you don't need to go tell everybody everything. It's not their business and it's okay to keep things private. I think people forget that.
Yeah. Well, everything's just so accessible
Yeah.
this day and age, right? So oversharing, we don't want it to be self-sabotaging, which is statistically where it comes from usually.
Mhm.
So if you are trying to work on oversharing, there's three things that you can do. You can pause before either posting or before talking. You can set some boundaries about what you're going to be talking about before you go to that social setting with friends or with family, and you can start to work on self-validation. Those are the top three things that are going to help you if you are currently an overshare and you want to work on that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thanks like always, our hotties, for joining us today.
Thank you,
And
hotties.
if you like this episode, please share it, recommend it to a friend, and help others stop oversharing.
And share with us how you overshare. Bye, hotties.
Ta ta.